Okay, we're going to start by making this tour by getting ourselves into the right format for worldwide telescope. So in the lower left, there's a pull-down menu under the name Look At. So the default for worldwide telescope is Sky. If you click on that pull-down and choose Solar System, this gives you a 3D view of the solar system. You can see the orbit lines of the different bodies. I'm going to double-click on Earth because we're going to start the tour here on Earth, and then I'll kind of move this around. So I'm going to first start by choosing to find us here in Fort Worth. So I'm going to go under Search at the top menu, little arrow down there, find Earth-based location, and I'll type Fort Worth, search, click on Texas, and now if I zoom in, we can try to find where. When I keep zooming in, get closer and closer, you see how the image is actually moving below me. So that's because the Earth is actually rotating on its axis, and I'm looking at a particular location. So I'm going to pause times under the view menu at the top, hit the pause button, that pauses time. And now I can move around looking at the same part of Fort Worth, but without it rotating out from under me. So if I zoom in here, I can get my bearings. This is Montgomery Street, and if we want to find ourselves, we're right now in the museum, right around here. So I'll kind of zoom into about here. Now I'm in a position to have my first slide. So I'm going to go under Guided Tours at the upper menu, click the arrow button and say Create New Tour. And I'm going to call this Tour of the Universe. I could put in a description to help me remember why I made it, my name, that kind of thing. But for right now, I'm just going to have the name of the tour. Now I'm going to hit Add New Slide, and this creates the first slide. Will be like about four slides of this tour. A slide has a beginning and in-camera position, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the start camera position is whatever we were looking at when we first created the slide. So that's the museum, and the in-camera position I will pull back, keep on pulling the camera back until we get to the full Earth, and then when we get here, we'll stop pulling back. I'm going to now right-click on this slide and select Set in-camera position. Now I'm going to start this next slide exactly here. So if I click on Add New Slide, it uses this camera position to start with, and then I'm just going to rotate this by left-clicking the mouse, moving it over the Earth sphere until I see that Africa is in view, and then I'm going to right-click on here and say Set in-camera position. Now, I also want just to show you how to label objects, so I'm going to label this as the Earth. I'm going to click on Text in the upper right and type the word Earth. This makes a text box that I can put any place. I'm going to put it over here to the left. So now the first slide zooms out from Fort Worth into the Earth. The next slide rotates a little bit. Now I'm going to go someplace different. I'm going to go to Mars. So I double-click on Mars. That takes me to Mars. I'll kind of zoom in to get a similar view of Mars. I'm going to add new slide. Now, one thing I'm going to do is this little arrow before each of the slides in the slideshow at the top means I'm flying from one position to the next. So when I'm moving from one place on the Earth to another, that makes sense. But if I'm going between planets, that would take a long time. So I'm going to do what's called a crossfade. So these are different transitions. So this A to B is a crossfade between A and B. So I'm going to use that as a crossfade instead of flying. And now I'm going to also do the same trick that I did for the Earth and rotate Mars like about a quarter of the rotation, and right-click on this and say Set in-camera position. Now I'm going to also add the Mars text to label it. And now I'm going to add one more new slide. This will start here, but now I'm going to zoom in, and you can kind of move your mouse as you zoom to find something kind of interesting. So I'm going to keep on zooming and kind of zoom over this crater and this linear feature here on the surface. And I'm going to get to about here, right-click, and say Set in-camera position. So now I have a short tour that starts at Fort Worth, zooms out to the Earth, rotates around a little bit, crossfades to Mars, rotates a little bit, and zooms into a feature on Mars surface. So that's how you make your first tour, and get started with that, and we'll go on to the next step.